it's that time again. It's Rod Woodward here in Mac and Gary Marshall in Bessacar, which can mean one thing and one thing only. It is time for the Gimme 5 podcast. And I know we got to redress the balance this week as far as the Welshness is concerned, Gaz. There wasn't enough in it last week, and I think a lot of people were disappointed with that. So I've put on the customary shirt and just finished a cup of tea, which I thought was Welsh enough with the bread of heaven. But I just looked inside the mug, and would you believe it? Oh, behold, you'll be getting this next time you stop, Gaz. That's for certain. God.
Unbelievable.
And but I know, speaking of teacups, I know you have a penchant for rearranging the teacups and the kettle and everything else whenever you've worked with our special guest today in hotels and places of ill repute all over the country. He is a positive legend of the dinner circuit, I think it's fair to say. He's a premiership referee of the highest order from 95 to 2004, a career culminating with the legendary FA Cup final. He's also a big mate, I think it's fair to say, of both of us. We've had the pleasure many, many times, and here he is, live and in the flesh, albeit through a computer screen, Jeff Winter!
Winter Radio!
Big Daft Jeff.
Big Daft Jeff.
So what is it about this, the hotel rooms? Tell us a bit about this, guys. What happened there? And Jeff, just enlighten us.
Well, I don't drive, so my wife drives me, and Jeff always stayed over. Whenever he worked, even just outside Middlesbrough, he'd stay over. And he'd get a hotel room, so I'd ring him and say, any chance my missus can, use your hotel room while we're doing the dinner? And yes, he said not a problem. So just to repay his kindness, I'd get back to the hotel room early before him, because obviously he was selling his books, right? And I'd repay his generosity by basically putting biscuits in his bed, kettles under his pillows, just basically
wrecking the place.
And I was in my late 40s, so you can understand I was very childish.
Well, it's good to know that you've mellowed now a bit, Gaz.
Exactly.
Yeah, none of that behaviour anymore. How are you, Jeff, anyway?
I'm fine, just battling on.
Yeah? How's lockdown been for you?
In fairness, it's been bad for everyone, but I've had a few peaks and troughs in it, but just had to keep on being positive. And to be quite honest, if you look at the positives, I've discovered where I live. I've discovered the beauty of the northeast of England. I think I'm like Forrest Gump, because I had a new knee. Operation last February, and I know that our friends Dean Windass and Big Norm have been out walking, and a lot of other people have been walking, but that's all I do. I'm out virtually every day of the week. And, there's a load of us, when we were allowed to get together, we've been up into County Durham, Sunderland, down the coast into North Yorkshire, and it's been fun. The old way of life, being stuck on motorways on a Friday afternoon, the length and breadth of the country, and getting up the following day to be shooting off to a football match, they seem to be dim and distant memories. And I don't know in my heart of hearts whether yet everybody's saying want to get back to normal, but I think we've discovered a new normal now, and I'm not too sure things will ever get back to the way they were.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think beforehand I'd take anything, any job.
Yeah.
Now, I had to sell my house during this pandemic, so I've gone mortgage free. So now I'm probably a bit more picky and choosy with how many jobs I do, if we ever get back to some sort of normality.
Yeah, I agree with you. Obviously, I'm a canny bit older than you lads, and you start to look at what's important in your life. And, I've got you Saturday afternoon, to me, if I wasn't at a football match, you couldn't contemplate not being at a football match on a Saturday. And sometimes that had meant sort of a 200 or 300-mile drive from a gig on a Friday night to be at the other end of Britain, in my case. I remember one night doing a gig at Heathrow Airport, and the following afternoon I was at Ibrox to watch Rangers play. And when I think of the suicidal journeys we did, and now you're thinking, hang on, do I need to be doing that in the future? And it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I think a lot of people, a lot of clubs, organisations are going to want to put events on, desperate to make money. So there's going to be more sort of demand for speakers and comics. But, you know, do we all want to be doing that we used to do? Because I was like you, and I'm sure Rod was the same. You never said no. You did favours for anybody and everybody. And I think the word no might be coming into the vocabulary a little bit more in the future.
Sure.
I think Rod said no more than us two, to be fair.
Yeah, well, he was quality. He was getting paid more than us. He could afford to say no. Me and you, 100 quid, we'll do that. Not a problem. Plymouth on a Tuesday night for 100 quid. Yes, I'll be there.
Well, obviously, Jeff, you know, you mentioned football there. Have you still got the passion for the game? Do you still watch a lot of football, or is it?
Well, I've been very polite so far, and I hope it's a mixed audience, because basically VAR has fucking killed my love of football. Yeah. Certainly in the Premier League, but fortunately for me, most of my football that I watched live was Middlesbrough, Rangers in Scotland, and a host of non-league football that hasn't had the game that we loved ruined by, you know, millimeters onside, offside, and everything else. But yeah, I mean, in the early days when there was no football, obviously I discovered Netflix, and you know, I've gone through every series that I'm sure all of us, I know we were getting messages from each other saying, oh, watch this one, it's a new one. It's only 65 episodes, you know, 5 series, and you know, 2.5 weeks later, anybody know any more because you've watched it? And then football has become a little bit of a saviour, because there's football now on, and this does worry me, because I cannot believe that when this is over, Sky are going to move away from your football morning, afternoon and night. You know, the Premier League's going to be 4 kickoff times on a Saturday, 4 on a Sunday, Monday night, Friday night. And at times, again, with that, you're starting to pick and choose. You know, there's no way when the weather's decent, I'd rather go out for a walk than sitting on a Sunday afternoon and watch bloody 4 football matches back to back. In fact, my passion has probably transferred a little bit to non-league football and local football, where you know, you can go, you can have a pint, it's not costing you an arm and a leg, the banter's there, and the football's honest. You know, there's no VAR at Redcar Athletic, I can tell you that.
Hey, well, that seems like a very good juncture to find out how the old Leverkusen got on the weekend, Gaz.
Another draw. We'll be becoming the draw specialists in the Doncaster Rovers Sunday League. 2-2 home to Carpenter's Arms, who I think they were second in the league. Two big Tom scored, Fulton Brown scored, and Nelly direct from a corner made it 2-2. And then, of course, a bit late on, final 10 minutes, we had a mass brawl and 2 sent off, which was always exciting.
And who's your local Sunday League side, Jeff?
Well, my pal, one of my pals that I walk with, he runs a team called Village Park Rangers. You see, I couldn't support any team that doesn't have Rangers in the title. And I've been to see them a few times over the last couple of years. And the tales he has to tell, reminiscent of what Gary's just come out with. I mean, they played a game the other Tuesday night, and come the end, one of his star players, a little bit tired, hadn't played for a while, a little bit frustrated. The result hadn't gone his way. So I think basically at the full-time whistle, he suggested he was going to kick the referee's head in. So, you know, it was all good, clean Sunday football fun.
Well, Sunday football's the greatest ever. I don't care what you say.
I love some of these videos that go around, you know, where there's tackles going in at neck. You can imagine some of the foreign players we've seen this week from PSG and Villarreal. If they got a Sunday League tackle in on them, then that would be death. That would be, you know, cremation on the spot.
Like I said, as an Arsenal fan at the minute, I am desperate for Sunday League football.
Yeah.
Well, I thought Arsenal, the way they played the other night against Villarreal, I thought they'd actually got demoted into Sunday League football.
I honestly thought we must have been 4 or 5 up from the first leg, judging by how we set about it. It was embarrassing. Anyway, enough of that shite.
Anyhow, I thought we were talking about football. We're not talking about Arsenal.
Yeah. Well, it sounds as though you've certainly done a bit of research with the old Netflix, which makes you extremely well qualified for the premise of this program. Not that there is much of a premise, but Gaz, perhaps you can explain the limited rules and regulations.
Obviously, everyone knows by now. I send out the categories to our guests. They choose 4. The final one has to be dinner party guests, 5 round the table that you'd sit and muse with. They can be dead or alive. The 4 categories that Jeffrey has chosen are TV programs, stadiums/venues, songs, and for the first time this series, holiday destinations.
Oh, well done. That's a cracker. Great new category.
Let's start off with your TV programs, your top 5 TV programs, Jeff.
Well, obviously, and this is rather loose, is this one, anything that's football related. You know, whether it's match of the day, Sky or whatever, you've got to have a bit of footy. So, and, you know, I mean, to be quite honest, that's a programme that at the moment is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So it's a sort of all-encompassing, anything that's got football. And let's add to that rugby league, a decent sport where people don't cry every time they are touched with a feather. So, you know, sport in general, it's great to be able to turn sport on and think, well, for the next 2 hours, I'm sat on my fat ass doing absolutely nothing but watch sport.
You say 2 hours on a Sunday. On a Sunday, you could be watching like 8, 9, 10 hours of football.
Yeah, but you've got to get up. You've got to get up for
4:30.
You've got to get up for a pee, don't you? You've got to get up for a pee after 2 hours. Make a cup of coffee and then sit down for another 2 hours. I mean, that would just be disgusting to sit there for a full 8 to 10 hours. You've got to have toilet breaks, drink breaks, refreshment breaks, hence having 5 2-hour sessions rather than 1 10-hour session.
Yeah, yeah. Well thought through there.
Yeah. So your first TV programme is anything sport related?
Yeah.
Well, other than when the soaps are on.
Oh, here we are.
Here we are. We're going back. All right, it's got to be, I mean, just to prove that all referees, the most boring people on God's earth, I like, because we have a busy, hectic lifestyle, I like a TV programme that you don't necessarily have to watch. You know, you turn the telly on, you sit there, you have your tea, you're on the phone, you're on the social media. You don't necessarily have to watch it. It's going on in the background. You can listen to it and you still know exactly what's happening. Yeah. And the only time you look up is when you hear the voice of that said soap's delectable young female. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say that now. Is it correct and normal that a man can like a female, or do we have to include people of various races and different sexes just to be sort of BBC-ish, so to speak? But no,
you can like females, not a problem at all.
Well, I've got to be honest, I love them. In fact, I only found out the other day, and this is going to come as a shock, I found out that I'm a lesbian. Because someone said to me, talking about lesbians, and I said, what's a lesbian?
You've got the hairstyle.
Yeah, they said, what's a lesbian? And they said, it's someone who loves sleeping with women. So I think I'm a lesbian.
You're going to get to Hebden Bridge.
I can't argue with your reasoning, to be fair. You can.
Coronation Street. Got to be up there.
Street. Okay.
Coronation Street. I wish I lived in Coronation Street, because in my many, many years on this planet, I have yet to experience, and I mean, we can't even go on to another of my favourites, EastEnders. I am yet, other than through natural causes, have ever lived on a street, road, avenue or crescent where anyone has been murdered. It's just a sad reality that in my sad, insignificant life where I've lived, there's never been a murder on our street. Yet if you're in Coronation Street or EastEnders, there's someone getting raped, murdered, there's a disaster, there's a tram coming through your front window. They must be the most exciting places on earth to live. So don't give me any crap about soaps are boring and unrealistic. So me top two, Coronation Street and EastEnders.
I mean, Coronation Street and EastEnders, especially Corra, where they live, like you say, on a cobbled street, houses either side. Everyone speaks to people. That's not the same. It's not the same in Donny.
The other thing I don't understand is, and maybe, I mean, I know this is just about you and I, we're Yorkshiremen, and maybe it's because there's a certain degree of tightness in our upbringing, but I can never really understand if you live in a street and your house is there, why you go to the corner shop for your breakfast, for your dinner, for your tea, and for a cup of tea and a cup of coffee, when really you'd just go to your house, wouldn't you? Put the kettle on, or now I live in Ingleby Barwick, we put the Nespresso machine on, or we put the velvetizer that was purchased through lockdown from Hotel Chocolat, and you make your own. You don't go to the corner shop, do you? But it happens in Coronation Street and EastEnders.
Who's your favourite character of all time in Corra?
Oh, that's one of those questions when people say, who's the dirtiest footballer? Who's this? Who's that? Now, in Coronation Street.
While you deliberate, I should jump in with a little fact that's just been sent through from Ian Parsons, telling me that a Welsh actress called Maudie Edwards spoke the first words in Coronation Street in 1960.
No one's bothered about that, Rod. Honestly, no one gives a shit about that.
What was she called? Maudie Edwards.
Maudie Edwards.
After much thought and consideration, I think my all-time favourite actress in Coronation Street was probably Maudie Edwards.
Yeah, it's a bit of a no-brainer, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
really? I can't believe that.
Without Maudie Edwards, we wouldn't have had a Coronation Street, would we?
That's exactly
right. You think about it. If she'd have fucked up that first line, that would have been it. Producer would have said, "Nah, this isn't working." Northern Backstreet Cobbles. It was Maudie Edwards from Wales that got the programme going.
She set the bar very high.
Jeff, you've disappointed me now. You've fallen into the Welsh trap.
He's an honorary Welshman. He's down in Wales all the time when he was.
I've got it. One of my first gigs in the diary, when we are due to return, is in some unpronounceable place in the south of Wales.
Yeah.
So Cardiff.
No, I think it was Neath.
He's got legendary status here, Gaz.
It was It's Pontypridd or something like that.
That's where Fireman Sam's from, isn't it? Ponty Summit.
Pontypandy.
Pontypandy. Fireman Sam.
But having said that, I mean, I love Coronation Street. I love the way as well in such a small street, because again, in my life, I've never really lived in a street where there's been a lot of murders, but in Coronation Street, and it's much, much sadder, much more downbeat version in the East End of London. I've never lived in a street, a road, an avenue where there are quite so many people of opposite sexes, the same sex living together. So, you've got this strange scenario where on a very small set of houses, not only do you have a murder a week, but you also have various gay relationships. Maybe it's just a sign of the times we're living in.
And EastEnders, EastEnders, the capital city, London, no one's got a washing machine. They're all in that bleeding laundrette, aren't they?
Well, there's another thing. There is another point in question. They go to the pub. Yeah, we all understand going to the pub. But, going to the laundrette, morning, afternoon and night, they haven't got a washing machine.
Correct. Embarrassing.
Yeah.
But if you don't mind me moving on from this highly entertaining subject of Coronation Street and EastEnders.
Let's hope we've got something to get
my all-time favourite, and I cried a lot when this left our screens. Not only because there was some dollies in it, and I mean dollies, but also something again. Now, I've got a bit of a problem because my next door neighbour, lovely guy, is our Steve. He, at the moment, I have noticed, he's doing a bar in the, as a lot of people are doing, building a little bar on the side of his house, back of the garage. But he is laying a brand new patio.
Brookside.
I have started calling my next door neighbour, whose name is Steve, I've started calling him Trevor Jordash. Because I am keeping a lookout for his lovely partner, Julie, to make sure Julie doesn't go under the patio. But no, I mean, Brookside, what they call her, Jennifer Ellison, Claire Sweeney, they had some top totty on that programme. Top totty. I loved Brookside.
I'm with you on Brookside. It was the best soap by a distance.
Do you remember? This is a test for you guys to see if you're as old as what I am. Let's move a little bit, 30 odd miles away, into Manchester. Do you remember Albion Market? Yeah. You know,
it was one of the worst ever.
I know, but, I mean, everybody went on about that one that was in Spain, the El Dorado or whatever.
Yeah.
It only lasted 5 minutes, that one. But Albion Market was all right.
Yeah.
Well, if you ever get to watch Albion Market, have a look at the extras. There's so many, like Northern Comics.
Yeah.
Going around the market. My dad was in it, God knows how many times. I'm sure Austin Knight was in. Yeah. Honestly, there's loads of different comics that were in as extras around Albion Market.
You see, that's probably on my bucket list. I mean, do you think there's any way I could get like a walk-on part in Coronation Street? I went to the Granada Studios tour once, and you used to go in to the cafe, and Alma was there and Rita on video, and you had to stand there, and me and my kids were there, and we had to say these lines, like, and me and my wonderful acting wooden voice would say, "Can I have a cup of coffee, please?" And then when you left the little cafe at the end, you purchased a video, and on the video, in the background, Alma and Rita were having a conversation, and in walks Wooden Winter. "Can I have a cup of coffee, please?" And, I mean, I've still got that.
Yeah.
Why
wouldn't you? Yeah.
Nothing to play it on, but I was in Coronation Street, but that's only pretend. Wouldn't it be lovely to have a real live... I mean, I could have been Jennifer Ellison's lover in Brookside, couldn't I? It would only be like a walk-on part because I'd only be on for a few minutes.
If nothing else, we should start a petition just to get you in, I reckon.
Definitely.
I mean, I've been taken by the number of people who've mentioned soaps on this programme now. And I feel like culturally I've probably missed out on something. Having seen Coronation Street the last time, I think it was the night that Curly Watts slept with 3 women in one night, and I just couldn't suspend my disbelief. I had to put the X-Files on to get a bit of realism in.
And there's another one. There's another sad Arsenal fan for you.
Curly, yeah, top. Yeah. No, Curly's Man City. You're thinking of Tom Watt from Lofty from EastEnders.
You're right.
Curly's Man City.
I've just been thrashed on live podcast there's me claiming to know and love my soaps.
Yeah, but in fairness, Jeff, that's a subject you don't really want to be too expert on. Celebrity.
I've just had my pants taken down and had me bare bum smacked, which brings us back to that hotel we stopped in Luton, but that's another story.
I think a lot more of you for not knowing that fact.
And my last TV, because I've only mentioned, I think, 27 so far, I'm into these... on a Friday night, when we used to actually go out, earn money, allegedly entertain people and raise thousands of pounds for good causes, my Friday night now is 8 o'clock till 11 o'clock. Chicago Med, Chicago Fire and Chicago PD.
On what
And
channel are they on?
They're on, I think it could be Sky Witness or something like that. Check it out tonight. Wonderful. Also, which is about the hospital.
Yeah.
Chicago PD, which is Chicago Police Department.
Yeah.
Chicago, it's easy for you to say. Chicago Fire, which is about the fire.
I'm going to guess that's about the fire brigade, is it?
They're very well done.
Good.
And Chicago.
And they're all set in Chicago. And it's
Really?
clever because if there's a problem on the police program and the fire brigade are called, some of the actors are there from the other program come on. Oh. And then if someone gets rushed to the hospital, the doctors are on there from the previous program. It's wonderful.
So it's a bit like Trumpton then.
Well, I don't know, because it's rather a long time since I watched Trumpton.
Pew, pew, Barney McGrew, Cuthbert Dibble Grub. Anyway.
Oh, are we moving on to my favourite songs now?
No, not yet.
So let me have a guess. Chicago?
Yeah. If you leave me now,
you take away. That's a good one. I like that.
So your top 5 TV programs are as follows: anything sport related.
Yeah.
Coronation Street, even though you don't have to watch it. EastEnders, ditto.
Even though it makes you cry, even on the happy moments.
Yeah. Brookside, because there's a bit of Totty in there.
And some good actors. I used to like Barry Grant. And of course, one of our colleagues from the speaking circuit, the one and only Scruffy B, Ricky Tomlinson. You know, there's some Sinbad, some absolute legends come through Brookside. Sue Johnson, great actors and actresses. Anna Frail. Now, we're back to it, aren't we? It was all her fault. It was all her fault. She was the first one. And imagine the shock and horror when a girl kissed another girl on national TV. Now it's obligatory.
It was Anna Frail and
obligatory.
Anna Frail, Nicola Stevenson, the first girl on girl kiss on television. What was girl on girl? That's a different thing, isn't it?
Oof. Oh, Fayette, good job you're only getting a headshot of me at the moment.
We're getting into a can of worms here. What's the next?
Leave me out of it. Don't you mention my can of worms.
No, Chicago Med, PD and Fire. I've no idea what it is. I don't think anyone else has, but we'll believe you. It's great.
I'll tell you something. I bet at 8 o'clock on the next available Friday evening for you gentlemen, you're all going to have a little let your fingers do the walking. You're going to be on your Sky Plus box. You're going to find out the Chicagos. You're going to be into them. You'll never look back.
I like the sound of it. It's on my list anyway.
It's on my list to avoid. So.
I mean, you think of all the great double acts. I'm talking Stan and Ollie, Abbott and Costello, Little and Large, Cannon and Ball, Hill and Pace, Zig and Zag, Mike and Bernie Winters, the Crankies, the list goes on. And Gary and Rod, they're just not them, are they?
Your next one is stadiums, Jeff.
Stadium.
5 stadiums.
First and foremost, and it's got to be first and foremost, is Ayresome Park. Because
believe it or not, this is the second time Ayresome Park has been involved in the stadiums. Jamie Sutherland also said Ayresome Park.
He probably got his head kicked in when he visited there, because we had an aversion to Scousers coming into our noble city. But no, I mean, Ayresome Park was where, as probably about a 7 or 8 year old, I fell in love with football, you know, the first time. And I'm sure all of you can say to your own respective hometown clubs, you walk through and you see, especially a night game, and, you know, there's a smell to a football ground. There's a noise, the atmosphere, that expanse of green grass. And, you know, it was so big, you know, even when you go into what is nowadays a poxy little small tin shed ground, it was just vast. And, you know, I had some of my fun times when I was young and wild and carefree at Ayresome Park. And I think it was what turned my love of football. You know, as kids, we used to play on the street. we didn't have computer games and things like that. We're just kicking a ball up against the gable end, Coronation Street style. But yeah, Ayresome Park, first and foremost, the good old-fashioned ground. Boot Boy Alley.
Boot Boy, and
Boot Boy Alley.
The names of the Middlesbrough players that I remember from Ayresome Park: Stuart Bohm,
6'2", eyes of blue. Stewie Bohm is after you. John Craggs made his debut for Middlesbrough after signing from Newcastle United on August the 31st, 1971. I know that because it was the day as a 16-year-old I started work, and I had to rush home from work to get up to Ayresome Park to see John Craggs make his debut for the Borough.
My first ever Arsenal game at Highbury was against Middlesbrough in the 70s. It was 0-0. I remember this. I remember it was the BBC cameras were there for Match of the Day.
That would have been a classic.
Oh, this is how bad it was, right? Match of the Day only showed the second half highlights. I'd never seen that ever. It was so drab. It was the most boring game ever.
I was probably there.
Centre half that day, I remember.
Was that Stewie Bohm?
Billy Ashcroft.
Oh, Big Billy. Well, still keep in touch with Billy. He was this hero at Wrexham, wasn't he? He played in Europe for Wrexham, and then he came to Middlesbrough. Unfortunately, it never really took off, but he was, great big ginger hair all over the place. Yeah, a lovely bloke as well, top guy.
Go on, then, number 2 on your list.
Well, I'll give you a clue. I'm asking you, where's my number 2?
Ibrox.
What a ground, what a place. Whether you support the British team that play in Glasgow or the other Monkey Mob, it's entirely up to you. But going into Ibrox, especially, last Sunday, the Old Firm, and, at 6 o'clock, I'd have been leaving my house on Sunday morning to pick me pals up throughout the northeast as we travelled up there. And, the ground is something special, but especially on Old Firm Day, because it's not about rivalry. It's not about competition. It is about pure and utter hatred. I have refereed every big derby game in England. And, Spurs, Arsenal, Liverpool, Everton, Man United, Liverpool, and all the other derbies. There's nothing compares with the hatred. It's nothing to do with football, but the noise and the atmosphere that it generates. It's just, please, if you've never been to an Old Firm game, it's not the same nowadays because obviously the away fans are restricted to a handful. Whereas, there used to be 6,000-7,000 away fans at each respective game. But, I've taken people up from the northeast with me there, and they've just stood there in the build-up to kick-off with their mouths open because the noise, the colour and the passion, coupled with hatred, of course, which is very much part of the game up there. It's just like nothing else. And, I'd got into the stage over the last few years of travelling around Europe to watch Rangers. And anyone can say it about their team. They can tell the same stories. Rangers are my team. I think Middlesbrough and Rangers. Middlesbrough are like the wife. Rangers are like the sexy girlfriend. The little bit of, you've got to have the wife, you've got to have stability, you've got to have the nice side of life at home on your doorstep. But we all like a little bit of fun. And Glasgow Rangers are my little bit of fun. And going up to Ibrox to watch them is just something special.
What a time for this pandemic to kick in as Rangers absolutely smash the Scottish Premier.
Well, I paid 500 quid for a season ticket last. That's old man's discounted price, and obviously never been in the stadium. But like you say, it's the same for any team though that's done well. You know, I mean, when you look at teams getting to, you know, Wembley in the FA, I mean, last weekend, Hebburn were playing Concert, and you're thinking, surely they could have let 1,000 in there, you know, because people from these little former mining towns in the northeast, they're probably never going to get the chance to go to Wembley ever again. And, you know, what harm would that have done? But that's the powers.
Yeah.
So there's me top two, Ayresome Park and Ibrox.
3.
You're going to love this, Mr. Marcellinio. My favourite third ground was, are you sitting there?
Yeah.
I know I can hear what you're saying. Without doubt, White Hart Lane.
Oh,
The old White Hart Lane. I loved White Hart Lane. I did Arsenal. I did Spurs Arsenal there on a. Oh, Gary Marshall is leaving the room. Well, I've achieved something that you lads have been trying to achieve all series long. I've got rid of him. No, White Hart Lane was special. Do you think Gary's coming back? Because I want to save my best line. Oh, here he is.
Yet?
Here he is. Yeah, no. As a referee, it's a bit like as a player. You'll have your favourite grounds, and perhaps some of your favourite grounds you pick because you scored a hat trick there or whatever. You never lost there. And I had grounds that whenever I went, I thought, there's something going to go wrong today. But White Hart Lane was just one of those grounds. I don't think I ever had a bad game, and I had some major games there. I did the Tottenham Man U game where Tottenham were 3-0 up at half. You like this one, Gary? Tottenham were 3-0 up at half time and lost 5-3. Oh. And I did the first game at White Hart Lane. I want to say the first game back for Sol Campbell.
That went well, didn't it?
Well, that is without doubt. It runs the animosity and hatred of an Old Firm game a very, very close second, especially, I did the Tottenham Arsenal game at White Hart Lane twice, but on the occasion that Sol Campbell came back, I have never known such animosity towards one individual player. The Tottenham fans were lining Tottenham High Court Road and that. As match officials, we used to get there, unreasonably early before a game. We'd be in the ground by 12:30 at the latest. And normally you're going down empty streets on a Saturday morning leading up to a game. At that time, as we were approaching the ground, the streets were flooded with Spurs fans waiting to welcome the Arsenal team coach.
And the effigies as well. Do you see the effigies?
Welcome Sol Campbell back to his former home. But I did like White Hart Lane. I've been to the new stadium once to watch Middlesbrough play there in the FA Cup replay. And it's like Arsenal's new ground. Some of these grounds now, they're unbelievable. But I did like White Hart Lane. Yeah. Sorry, Gary.
It's all right. You can.
When you mentioned, Jeff, the animosity that comes with football sometimes, were you on the receiving end a lot back in the day, or would you always stand your ground if you got it from the players? How did it impact you? Did you relish it? Did you just sort of put your shoulder?
Well, it's funny because if you're refereeing, getting back to Gary's favourite subject, Sunday morning football, you hear every word. You hear what the managers are saying, the coaches, the fans, and because there's no one there. There's 30 or 40 with all the subs if you're lucky. Sometimes a lot less than that. When you're in the protected environment of a sort of a Premier League ground with 20, 30, 60, 70, 80,000 people in, it's just a wall of noise. So, it's not as you would imagine it, that the noise isn't personal. My favourite song of all time, The Referee's a Wanker. It always made me laugh, that, because most of the people in the ground that are singing those said words, wanking is the closest they've ever come to having a sexual relationship with a member of the opposite sex, I hasten to add. And to be quite honest with you, if you're going to say something derogatory about a fellow human being, there are so many more worse things that you could call someone than accusing them of being a wanker. Because to the best of my knowledge, it isn't illegal, and it's something that in the privacy of one's own boudoir, most people at some stage in their lives have actually partaken in. So next time football fans are singing "The referee's a wanker," just think it through, because there's every chance that later on that evening, said fan will be in the comfort of his own boudoir with the porn channel on, wanting to be a referee.
And I can confirm as well, because
You've slept next to me.
I slept basically in a room with like paper thin walls, and I can definitely say he enjoys the old
But
shuffle.
having said that, I was put off my stroke on that particular evening, so to speak, because on the other side of the paper wall in said guest house in Luton, until about 1:30 in the morning, and I know you'll agree with this, Rod, or you'll certainly be able to know where I'm coming from. Gary Marshall, apart from being a superb artist in his own right, is a brilliant artist, in fact, better than some of the people he imitates, because he knows every after-dinner speaker's stories. So you've just done a gig in some place in Luton. You're back in your hotel bedroom thinking, am I going to play the referee's a wanker game? And all you can hear through the paper-thin wall is 45 minutes of him doing your act from beginning to end to a far higher standard than you'd actually done it yourself.
Are you coming round this Christmas?
Well, if you don't fancy taking to the road again, at least you'll know there's a tribute act kicking around in Doncaster.
Well, then number 4, Jeff.
Well, number 4 is a little bit of a split, because I'm going to just say the Merseyside grounds, Everton and Liverpool. I loved going to both of them. What I call, old-fashioned, close to the pitch grounds. The Scouse humour, hilarious, because, they didn't just sing the referee's a wanker, or the old ones. They'd make up funny ones,
Yeah.
It wasn't actually there. That one of my favourite football songs of all time, and you two guys know what this is, originated one day when football fans thought outside the box. Instead of coming out with a stereotype, referee's a wanker, who's a bastard in the black, Derby County versus Manchester City, and the Derby County fans came out with an original song that is still to this day very close to my heart. Oh, Graham Pole is a fucking arsehole. And I thought that was quality, in the sense that they'd put some thought into it, they'd made up a song, they'd produced it during a game on a Saturday afternoon, and what is more, they were so correct.
Oh. Well, apparently they're going to turn it into a musical.
Well, I don't really want to walk on part on that one. So Everton and Liverpool in joint 4th place.
And your final one?
A ground that I'm sure will be close to all of your hearts, being football fans. The one, the only Turnbull ground. The home of Whitby Town.
Turnbull?
The Turnbull ground, the home of Whitby Town. They used to 30 miles down the 25 miles down the coast from me. Beautiful. It was where they did all the Dracula things.
Yeah, that's where he landed, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's where he was there. So there's a little dark and sinister side to it. Lovely Yorkshire, North Yorkshire fishing port. The filmed Heartbeat in and around the area. But most importantly, when Big Daft Jeff was in town to referee one of their pre-season friendlies, they, at the end of the game, would come into the dressing room. They would give linesman one his few pounds and a couple of shillings for his expenses. Linesman two would get the same. Big Daft Jeff got his match fee, a bag of fresh Whitby kippers. Now, you can get medals in sport, you can get money, but more importantly, on my visits to the Turnbull ground at Whitby, I came home with a bag of kippers. So it's got to be in there for the kippers alone.
Absolutely.
Marvellous. Ray Hankin used to play for Whitby, I remember.
Ray Hankin played for Gisborough Town as well. He came into the Northeast. He is somebody that always will be synonymous with one of the saddest days in football, because he was manager of Northallerton Town. And I was refereeing at Northallerton Town. I was a Football League linesman in those days and refereeing in the Northern League. And I refereed at Northallerton Town on the day of the FA Cup final. Of the FA Cup semi-final. And as we came off at half-time, stories were starting to come out about the disaster at Hillsborough. And a few weeks later, I ended up being fourth official on the FA Cup final. I'll always remember Ray Hankin from that. But yeah, there's Eddie Gray had a spell, David Harvey from Leeds United at Whitby Town. Good, honest football, Saturday afternoon football, local level. And, in those days, Whitby used to get 600 or 700 to all the games. Lovely place to go to. And you got, as well as your kippers, you could always get some fish and chips before you came home.
Yeah, I like the Gimme 5 podcast because, it's crazy.
Ideal.
Moving on to your songs, obviously one of your songs we've heard already, Oh Graham Paul.
I don't think that was ever brought out by. I don't think we can include that in one of my songs.
Right. Okay.
As yet, even though it's been sung by myself at sportsmen's dinners, the length and breadth of the country, I don't think one of the big sort of producers actually took it on board. So sadly, Graham Paul is not in my list.
So go on then. What's your 5 songs?
Well, I love, in a nice way, in fact, in every way, I love Heather Small.
People.
Yeah, M People. They're probably in her capacity with M People and as a solo artist. I don't think I've ever been to see anyone on more occasions than Heather Small. And whenever I see her anywhere, still go, a voice to die for. Former wife of a rugby league legend.
Sean Edwards.
Wow.
Exactly. There's not a lot of people knew that.
Wales link.
There's your Wales link.
Defence coach. And furthermore, didn't she appear in Coronation Street? So she ticks all the boxes.
Oh, I wouldn't have married her.
One night in Devon.
Well, actually, it's One Night in Heaven.
Oh, is it? In Heaven?
Yeah. Heaven, who obviously FA Vase final the other week. And, my kids, kids get nursery rhymes. My kids, they're all, grown up now, to put it mildly. Well, in terms of age, I don't think they've ever grown up in terms mentally, because it's something to do with what's in the genes. But they were brought up by going on holiday, going out for the weekend, going anywhere and everywhere, and having to listen to Heather Small and M People on car.
What song, though? What song is it?
My number 1 is Proud.
Proud.
Oh, good
Oh
song.
yeah. What does it
Good song. I always think of the great Tom Binns and his anecdote about the fella who ended up with an Action Man shoved up his ass, and
Yeah.
that's the cue for him to
For
play
the hero inside
yourself.
Unbelievable. A wonderful song, and you've brought it down to anal entries. When I want to talk about what have you done today to make you feel proud. I used to have that on my little ghetto blaster type thing, and I used to play that before we went out to do a game on a Saturday, Sunday, whenever afternoon. So proud up there.
Proud is your number one. Number two?
Well, and this is number two, not only in my all-time list, but it's number two on my funeral list. Now, this is something that only people who've gone walking with me are privy to my funeral plans, because I am the life and soul of a good walk. You know, I fill them with all this information. So let's get out of the morbid situation of COVID and all the problems. Let's go out for a walk in the countryside in the fresh air and listen to Jeff talk about his funeral. My pal Bernie Slaven has, obviously the flowers on the coffin will be red, white and blue. And Bernie has already threatened to kibosh that, and on the day with all my Rangers supporting mates, which I'm assuming, because all my mates in the world don't really exceed the 10 people you're allowed at a funeral in the present COVID problems, but he is going to kibosh via the local florist, and my coffin is going to come in with a wonderful gold, white and green floral display. The bastard. But no, the second one is another of my favourite artists, but a song somewhat synonymous with one of the football teams I follow, and it's Simply the Best by the one and only Tina Turner, who was another artist who I managed to see live on 3 or 4 occasions. What an act.
This is one of your funeral songs, Simply the Best.
Yeah. And if you go to a funeral, you're laughing at you. It's certainly not going to be an Arsenal fan funeral, is it? You're shite and you know you are. That's what they'll play at your funeral. But if you go to a funeral in Scotland, Simply the Best from anyone from the loyalist side of the street, Simply the Best is one that's normally played.
As long as it's about your football team, I'm happy.
That's it. It's not about me, because I've never been.
It's about your refereeing.
Oh, well, it's very nice of you to say so.
Exactly. Well, number 3.
Number 3, Penny Arcade.
Yeah.
Which is another.
No, where these are going.
Which is another sort of Rangers linked one. Number 4. Now This is a cry one. This I thought about this for the funeral list, but you know it's going to be a sad occasion.
How many songs have you got on your funeral list, by the way?
Well, you know, it's like me when I stand up. Do you remember what he used to say to me? The colleague comedian he's brilliant, from Liverpool. Sean Styles. He always used to describe he used to say to us, because you comedians, I don't include you in this, Rod, because you're a nice guy, but the rest of the comedians, all those greedy bastards are interested in is getting the speaker on and off and out of there as quickly as they can so that they can do their act. In fairness, poor comedians don't get on till 11 o'clock at night. And Gary once, and he told me about this, and I didn't realise I'd done this, but he must have really riled me on one gig. Fucking hell, look at the time. What time am I going to get? What time am I going to get home? I've got to get back to your hotel and wreck your bedroom. What time is it? What time is it? And I had spat my dummy out, evidently, and turned round to him and said, "They've come to see me, not you." And that was so unlike me. And it's something, it hurts me to think I said it, but he just got on me tits that much, you know, by basically
Well,
belly aching all night long. But
No.
one of the things the comedians used to say to a speaker before they went on, because events, they go on and on and on, don't they? The dinner's late, then they want to do their stand-up bingo, and you're looking at your time, God, what time am I got to get on? And if I'm not going to get on till 9:45, then poor comedian's not getting on till 11 o'clock. So the night just went on and on and on. And Gary, you got a little bit ratty, didn't you, when you thought you were going to get on very, very late?
In my defence, right? This is what happened.
Oh, here we go.
Jeff Winter got to his feet at 8:30. Wonderful time to get on. So I'm thinking,
bloody hell.
Was that
a luncheon?
The latest I'll get on here is 10, and I mean the latest I'll get on is 10. So Jeffrey Winter does his 40 minutes, 9:10. They have a break. Come back for the auction. And I said, don't do all the auction before I get on, Jeff. Oh, he does. An hour and 15 minutes later, we're still doing the auction.
I get on
at 11:10.
But you were very good.
11. So I have seen my arse, and that's when he said, Gary, they've not come to see yous. Which is just what I needed to hear.
Sean Stiles, you always used to say to me, you know, because he similar comedian, wanting to get on. And in fairness, the comedians do get the rough end of the deal. He always used to say, how long are you doing tonight? You know, hoping that you're going to say 25 minutes, 30 minutes, 35 minutes at a push, because he's looking at his watch, and they've got wonderful brains of comedians. They're going, like Gary's just proved there, 40 minutes, then a 20-minute toilet break, and then they might want to do some fundraising. I'm not going to be on here till fucking 11 o'clock tonight. Sean Stiles always used to say to me, how long you doing tonight? And to wind him up, I'd just go 90 minutes. And he replied, it'll fucking seem like it. And that was wonderful, because he was insinuating that when I got up, it was pretty boring. Yeah. And in fairness, he wasn't the only one, so he can't have been wrong.
Well,
so anyhow,
it sounds to me as though you were just teaching Gary a little valuable life lesson there.
It was called, This is What Happens to Twats That Wreck My Bedroom. When I get to bed on a night, I do not expect to find a shortbread halfway down the bed.
Toes.
Yeah, halfway down the bed. And then, but the thing was, he was damn dangerous. There'd be cups, there'd be saucers. You know, it wasn't just a case of getting a coffee sachet underneath your pillow.
No.
He was putting things in there that could have caused me some harm.
Yeah. He never knows when to draw the line.
We're talking about
songs, weren't we?
Yeah. Where's this come from?
I don't know. The next one, a very sad one. And
a sad song.
A sad song, but this is a song that was Middlesbrough's anthem. And I recently heard a version of it by Bruce Springsteen, would you believe? And Bruce Springsteen, who's known for sort of lively, wonderful, bouncing songs. But this one was more from the slave trade in America many, many generations ago. And it was called We Shall Overcome. Right. And it was the Borough song, We Shall Overcome Someday. Deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. And I tell you something, the place would have been, you know, if you'd have sung that at your funeral as one of your songs in there, even for a person like me, that a referee that no one likes, people would have been showing genuine tears. So I like We Shall Overcome from the Middlesbrough connection.
And your final song?
Final song, I'm going to, instead of being Big Daft Jeff, I'm going to be barely sensible for a couple of seconds, because during the course of the pandemic, as some of you are well aware, unfortunately, my wife passed away.
Yeah, the lovely Lynette.
Of course, you met on many occasions, because usually when you were interfering with my bed, she was still lying in the other half of it. But, look after your friends. That's what I always say.
She was always good to me. It's
always a laugh, yeah. Sadly, no longer with me. But we played a song from, that wasn't really a song, because I think there might have been an element of miming in it, from probably one of the greatest songwriting and songsters duo of all time, the legendary Milli Vanilli. Milli Vanilli. And talking about leaving a tear in the eye, it was Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You. So no more words needed on that one, but that's in my top 5 list.
Good man.
I tell you what I don't like about Give Me 5, and that's that it's discriminatory against all the other numbers. I mean, what about Give Me 4, or Give Me 3, Give Me 6, Give Me 2? How come no one's ever asked me to give him 1? That's rhetorical, of course.
So we're moving on now to
holidays.
First time ever holiday destinations, and I do hope these are all on the green list.
The last 12 months, I've been playing table tennis with Jet2. I send them a lot of money and book a flight. They then return by saying, it's off, there's your money back. So I get another flight booked. They return it, it's off, get your money back. So I don't know whether there's anywhere on the green list. I know we're supposed to hear it in the very near future.
It could be worse, Jeff. You could be playing table tennis with Ryanair. You serve, and they just look for the ball for about 7 or 8.
Fair point. Right, my top 5 destinations. I've gone for Malta.
On the green list.
And I don't want to turn this into a morbid show, but a very good friend of mine from Malta that I've known for 30 odd years sadly passed away about 6 weeks ago. But I was involved in some business in Malta and used to go there with great regularity. And it was one of those strange foreign places where they actually like the British. I mean, British people, rather than just liking our money. And, obviously we know the connections with Malta from the can we mention the war? From many years ago. So Malta's up there. And it's one of those places as well. You either love it or you hate it. It's Marmite. People either go there once and then continue to go there year after year after year, or go there once and never go back again. But I like Malta and I like the Maltese people.
Well, they also still give us points in the Eurovision as well, Malta, which is
they're one, and that just proves what a bent competition that is. You talk about VAR. I mean, you just know what's going to happen, don't you? Malta will always give us a vote because most Maltese are sort of descendants from British soldiers,
right,
who were based in Malta and had relationships with some of the local girls. So there's a little bit of England in Malta, wherever you look.
Number 2?
The Caribbean. I love the Caribbean. I love the lifestyle, the music, the weather. There's nothing not to like about the Caribbean. Love going there. And hopefully one day we'll be able to get back there. And anybody that's ever been out, I don't think anybody can say anything bad about the Caribbean.
Fabulous. Good shout. If you had to pick one place in the Caribbean, would you have a standout?
Oh, I don't know, because most of the times, other than I think once or twice, I've gone specifically to, I did a split week. I had a week in near Montego Bay, and then we went a week in the Cayman Islands. Most of my traveling has been on cruise ships, So, it's a case of waking up each day and, Barbados, Antigua, Martinique and all the places there, Aruba, they just roll off your tongue, and everywhere is a different. And the beauty of cruising is, you wake up and you've got a different holiday every day.
Nice
so
way of doing it.
I just love the Caribbean.
Brilliant.
Number 3.
Canada.
Ah.
Absolutely superb. The people. Now, I've got to be very careful what I say here. I don't want impeaching, because that's what happens if you say things and make comparisons about, say, the American people against the Canadian people. Let's just say the Canadian people are different, and Canada, it's such like America, it's vast. You could go there every holiday that you've ever got in a lifetime and still not get around the country. But in my footballing days, I managed to go out sort of into mid-Canada to do some coaching with their young referees, and went to places like Brandon in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Calgary, Edmonton, the Jasper Trail. One of my favourite places, and we'll include this in this section because it is about holidays, one of my favourite places on this planet is just outside Jasper, a place called Lake Louise. And it's one of the most beautiful settings you could wish for. And obviously, now be careful. I don't want any rude comments from Gary Marshall. I've made certain inferences as to my preference to the feminine species, but I loved going up the Inside Passage. That was wonderful when we went up in Alaska, Skagway, Gimme, which I can pronounce, but I can't spell. And it's just something about Canada, beautiful variety of people, of life, and the houses. The houses are unbelievable. You pull up outside a house and it's a bit like an iceberg. They always say with an iceberg, you see a little bit above the surface, but under the surface, it's 20 times as big. Well, you pull up outside a Canadian person's house and you can see, the big, nice house and everything. But then underneath the houses, they've got just vast rooms, I think every house has about 10 bedrooms in it.
Amazing.
And my memory of staying with somebody in Canada was that every morning you used to wake up and they used to bake their own bread.
Wow.
And the smell of fresh bread coming through the house. So when I got back from Canada, I rushed to my local superstore, and in order to recreate that little bit of Canada, I bought a bread making machine, put it into the kitchen, and on the first week, tried to make bread every day. And on the second week, tried to make bread a couple of days. And in the third month, got the bread making machine out and made bread again. That bread making machine, I do believe, is somewhere in my garage. It is filed and kept there as a show of respect for my love to the beautiful country of Canada. And Tim Hortons. If you've ever been to Canada, Tim Hortons is their coffee. Forget Costa Coffee, forget Starbucks. The world evolves around Tim Hortons. Everybody goes in and they get they have the breakfast in there. They go in and get a sandwich at lunchtime. In the afternoon, they go in and have a coffee and a little scone or something like that.
It's like the cafe in Coronation Street then.
Yeah, but it's Tim Hortons. It's different. I'm sorry, Roy's Bowls cannot compete with Tim Hortons.
Well, that was a great to hear. Everyone seems to like the Canadians. No one's got a bad word for them except the Americans.
Yeah,
they're just like
jealous.
Hemorrhoids, don't they? They say they
They're
all
jealous.
like when they go down and come back up again, but it's when they come down and stay down they're a pain in the arse, which seems very unfair to Canadians.
No, I like Canada, and I do like the people. Lovely country, lovely people.
What was that place called? You said you could pronounce Gimme.
Gimme.
That's basically how Hull people ask if you know.
Gimme.
Gimme.
That was the one time in my life, despite all the wonderful memories of Canada, that was the one time in my life that the luggage got lost. We arrived in Vancouver and were transferred from the flight to the cruise ship to go up previously aforementioned inside passage. And our luggage was at that time flitting across the world. So we've got on a cruise ship, me and the lovely little Lynette, and we've travelled as one would expect at that time of the year in jeans, etc., casual attire. And our luggage turned up 4 days into the cruise. And because it was a cruise on the inside passage, the little shop didn't have Lacoste, didn't have wonderful gear on. It had things with bears and whales and that sort of thing, you know, and underwear. And I always remember Lynette, who you may recall, Gary, from when you fumbled through my bed when she was asleep in the other half of it, had a fairly tidy little derriere, but all they had in the shop was Bridget Jones knickers. And funnily enough, having spent 3 days with Lynette, with her wearing Bridget Jones knickers, there was a certain side of our marriage was never the same thereafter. But loved Canada.
Malta, Caribbean, Canada, number 4?
Lanzarote, or as people used to say, Lanzagrotte. I like Lanzarote. In fact, you know, any of the Canary Islands, but especially Lanzarote.
Very white buildings, green roofs. Is it green? I watch it on a place in the
sunshine as well, more importantly. But, you know, there's a variety. When I go there, I don't stay in one place. You know, you've got Playa Blanca down right at the far end of the island, Puerto del Carmen, that's more lively and has got the world famous Bluebell Bar, which is the local home of people of a similar persuasion to my good self when it comes to the footballing side. And then there's Costa Teguise as well. So plenty of places to go, and where you could go and get some new clothes on a Sunday morning, the world famous Teguise market, where, you know, it's a massive Sunday market where, you know, hundreds and hundreds of stalls laden with quality fake gear and the like. And I heard you talk about a fire somewhere recently. Well, I think if this marketplace burnt down on a Sunday morning, there would probably be an insurance claim in for upwards of £12.50 for the entire value of the stock that was destroyed. But it's, you know, it's the character of the place, and it's just it's nice because it's not just round the corner like Spain, a couple of hours. It's not the other side of the world, 8-10 hours or more. It's sort of a 4-hour flight from the UK, and I'm supposed to be going there in about 3 weeks. Or our Jet 2 going to return the table tennis ball over the net and my money's back in my account. Watch this space.
It might be okay end of June myself, but yeah. Your final one, Jeff?
Final one, a long, long way from home. And the country is home at present to my youngest son, Australia. But whilst Australia, I mean, he's been out there 3 years now and hasn't seen a hundredth of what the country has to offer. I've only been a couple of times, so I've not even scratched the surface. But one of the most fantastic places up there with almost Lake Louise is the Great Barrier Reef. And a lovely little, I was sort of at the far end of the Great Barrier Reef at a place called Port Douglas. And we went out, and no beached whale jokes required. I can't do that one where you go scuba diving because I'm a little bit scared when, you know, you get underwater and all that, but went snorkeling there. Now, getting into the wetsuit was a bit of a challenge. And it is something that I actually had to wear for the rest of the holiday, because once you get in a wetsuit, unless you've got a tin opener or a very strong pair of scissors, you just can't get out of them again. And went snorkeling there, and I mean, it's like watching David Attenborough on the telly, only they're there through your goggles underneath you, and that was special. So that is the last of my 5 famous holiday destinations.
What a way to kick off holiday destinations! A really good set of choices there, I reckon.
I've got relatives in Australia, and I think me and Rod were talking about before this pandemic. We were going to go to Australia, New Zealand, I think, for a break and go in.
Well, New Zealand is
looking at the great white sharks in the cage. I've not told you this, Rod. That's what we were going to do.
Right.
Oh, have some of our agents moved out to Australia and New Zealand? They won't be listening, will they? That'll be even less work for winter. I went to New Zealand, but I've got a tip for going to New Zealand to save you a lot of money.
Go on.
Go to the Lake District. I'll go up into the Scottish Highlands, because everybody wows about the beauty of New Zealand and everything else, and forget that sometimes we've got, as I've found out walking in this country in the last 12 months, we've got sheer quality beauty on our own doorsteps.
Well said, Jeff.
Well, I've listened to Gimme 5, and to be honest with you, I'm still in the dark over here. Hoo-ha.
So the final one is the one that everybody chooses, your top 5 dinner guests, dead or alive. Off you go.
I suppose I'll have to include you in this, since I've had more dinners with you than any other comedian. No, I'll go for famous people.
Thank you.
George Best.
Okay.
George Best. I didn't see a lot of him, but loved what I saw. He was, one of my all-time favourites on a footballing sense was Jim Baxter, even though at the time he played for Sunderland. But, obviously he was a Glasgow Rangers man. And like a lot of geniuses in life, they live very close to the edge. But I think the absolute hero was George Best. And one of those, funnily enough, had been speaking. Clayton Blackmore was... I don't know, he was manager or coach at Bangor, and it's probably a venue that you lads have done yourselves. And I did this event on the Friday night in Bangor in North Wales, and on the Saturday morning, you weren't with me on it, were you, Gary?
No, but I'm just because you're mentioning Wales, they're loving it, honestly.
Ah, well, I'm an arsehole.
Rod, he flashed the Welsh. Whatever that thing is.
I didn't. I just scratched my leg, and it just.
Yeah.
Well, mind you, the people from where he comes from, old Rod Woodward, they think North Wales is in Liverpool, don't they? They don't include North Wales.
You're right there, Jim.
I'd been speaking at a dinner in Bangor on the Friday night, and on the Saturday morning, rushing back to the northeast, coming across the M62. And it was the morning of George Best's funeral.
Right.
And, they played, was it You Rise Me Up or whatever that, you'll know the song.
Yeah.
Scroll button. You Raise Me Up. Yeah.
You Raise Me Up. Yeah, sorry, yeah. And I'm like going past that lonely farmhouse in the middle of the M62. Tears sort of coming down the side of my face. And funnily enough, a few weeks later, actually was speaking in Belfast or in that area, and went to the cemetery where George Best had been laid to rest, and you were expecting this great big sort of almost like a mausoleum and everything, and no, he's just buried either alongside or in the same plot as his mum. Yeah. And an unbelievable talent.
Yeah.
My second one, and you've got to go for crazy as well as genius, And I don't know whether this guy would actually turn up. He'd probably forget when he'd had his invitation. But when I tell some of my tales, I think I first refereed him when he was about 15-year-old, 16-year-old. He'd broken into the reserve team at Newcastle, and he later went on. He should have achieved so much more, because to me, he's the best footballer I have ever been on a football pitch with. And when you look at the company of Thierry Henry, Gianfranco Zola, and a lot of other names I could mention, I honestly believe the wee daft Geordie, Paul Gascoigne, was up there in that level. And he played for Rangers. He came to Middlesbrough, and there's some of my colleagues on the speaking side of our industry make a living out of telling Gaza stories, because there is 1,001, and the best thing about it is they're all true. And like I say, whether I once enjoyed, and I use that word very, very loosely, but I once enjoyed a flight to Dubai with Gaza, sat in the row behind me. And that, without doubt, was the longest 6 hours of my life. He's absolutely crazy, but fun-loving guy. And if you remember to turn up, or something didn't happen on the day of the event, I think we'd have some fun at dinner.
Yeah,
he'd get all the expensive wine in and offer to pay for it. Then, funnily enough, when the bill came in, Big Daft Jeff would be picking up the tab. But never mind.
Well, number 3,
Muhammad Ali. When I was a kid growing up, he was just something different, and he encompassed everything in life. He had his beliefs and everything, and there was certain controversies there. But, as an artist and as a showman, he was just different class. And imagine George Best, Gaza and Muhammad Ali in the same room.
What could go wrong?
And Big Daft Jeff.
Big Daft Jeff.
And number 4,
What?
the man, the legend. He was my favourite footballer that I refereed.
Oh, that you refereed?
Yeah, my favourite footballer that I refereed. He made his debut in a game that I refereed, coming on as about a 17-year-old for the last quarter of an hour. He made his debut for England in a game when I was the 4th official at Wembley. I have his shirt in my house that he signed for me on my final game at his team. And now he is the manager of the most successful team in world football, a team that only recently secured their 55th league title. Steven Gerrard. And I'll tell you something, and this isn't because he's managing Rangers or anything else. Yes, one day he will manage Liverpool, and I think one day he'll manage England, because he's just bought in to what football means to spectators, whether in his home city as a Liverpool fan or as he's shown in Glasgow over the last 3 years. And the only problem is, if we have him in the dinner or at the dinner, I'm just going to keep bursting out laughing, because the guy from Liverpool, the comedy impressionist,
Willie! Yeah.
Every time you look at Steven Gerrard, all you can think of is him doing his impressions. But that's a little bit of indulgence that I'd like Steven Gerrard there.
And why not? Why not? Go on, the final dinner guest.
Well, I think when you think you've got sportsmen there, and in my case, very loosely involved in sport, I think we need a bit of beauty. We need a little bit of eye candy, for want of a better word. Now, down the years, I could have given you from Twiggy, who was one of my, Petula Clark, who was one of my first loves. Twiggy, who, you know, and if I could go on for about the next 6 hours of women that I've quite been attracted to over my many years. But, and this hopefully doesn't go any further than the privacy of your 4 listeners to this podcast. Five, when it goes out. Here is a lady that I feel as if I've shared a great proportion of my life with.
Heather Small.
Not Heather Small, unfortunately. We're moving on differently. When I say I've shared a great proportion of my life, as you're well aware, on the after-dinner circuit, and as you did mention, I spent a lot of time, because of the distance. Why are you shaking your...
I know where you're going with it.
Gary Marsh.
I know exactly where you're going with it.
It's not Lord Edwards, is it?
Well, you spend a lot of time in hotel rooms. Now, coming from the northeast of England and working all over the country, and Friday afternoons, as you were well aware, are a terrible, terrible time to be on motorways. I used to leave home early on a Friday morning, would get to my hotel, early afternoon, I'm there. The venue's just round the corner, sorted. I had Friday afternoons alone in previously mentioned boudoir, which at this stage of the day is in pristine condition because Marshalino hasn't arrived to fucking wreck the place yet. So there is me in said room, laying on the bed, watching Countdown, watching Rachel Riley on
you spoiled it. They were going for Vorderman and the Welsh.
Oh, no. We've given them enough. This afternoon. And let's just say Rachel and I shared many a pleasurable afternoon as I watched her performance in her micro mini dresses, etc., on Countdown. All I can say, sorry to butt in, even though the show was only scheduled for 30 minutes and I've been on 3.5 hours, but I must admit, when Carol, you've got me Carol Vorderman now, when Rachel Riley transferred for 8 out of 10 cats, 8 out of 10 cats does Countdown, and the length of her skirts and dresses were reduced by about 12 inches. I can only say to you, I'm glad that wasn't on Friday afternoon television. Otherwise, I might not have arrived at the venue till much later, meaning that Gary Marshall and his fellow comedians got on the microphone even later.
Oh, later, but earlier.
Well, you can't put a top quality comedian on before a speaker, so you would have just had to go on much, much later.
I was going to say before, when you're watching Countdown with Rachel Riley, did you get aroused?
Not bad, 8 letters. Boom, boom. So there you are. George Best, Gaza, Muhammad Ali, Stephen Gerrard, and me and Rachel playing Countdown in the corner of the dining room.
Brilliant. We've had some great things, Rod. We've got his TV programmes with sport, anything sports, Cora, EastEnders, Brookside, then the Chicago trilogy. His songs were Proud, Simply the Best, Penny Arcade, We Shall Overcome, Girl, I'm Gonna Miss You, Milli Vanilli. We've got his dinner guests, George Best, Gaza, Muhammad Ali, Stevie G, Rachel Riley, holiday destinations, Malta, the Caribbean, Canada, Lanzarote, Australia, and of course his stadiums, Ayresome Park, Ibrox, Anfield, Goodison, and the Turnbull Ground.
You've missed one out, mate. Yes.
Can't read me writing. Anyway, so they're the 5.
Well, that was delivered with aplomb and panache and all those other great things. Measured, considered, and eloquent as ever, Jeff. Thanks so much for your time, and it's been an absolute delight having you on the Gimme 5 podcast.
It's been a pleasure, lads. I hope to see you in reality in some hotel bedroom or some derelict working men's club somewhere in the not too far distant future.
Here's to that.
Cheers, pal.
God bless you, Jeff.
Cheers, Jeffrey.
Cheers,
See you later, boys.
Ta-da.
I've listened to Give Me 5, the podcast, and I have 3 words: buffoons, bounders, and bravo.
So there was the whirlwind that was Jeff Winter. I tell you what, I would never, ever have remonstrated with him on the football pitch, would you?
Oh, Christ, no. And for all you lexicographers out there, I think we all know aroused is only 7 letters, not 8. Teed him up for it, and he still cocked it up.
I'm glad you said that and not me. So for more of the same, you can join us again on the Gimme 5 podcast. It's going to be a very quick outro today. We're not even sure that we can cram all of this show into one episode, but one thing's for certain, it certainly has been an absolute pleasure. As always, Gaz.
Absolutely, yeah. Loved it again. They're flying by. They're flying by.
Big thanks in the meantime to our producer Ian Parsons, who has pulled this off with
Oh, geez, that's getting back. That's back in his hotel room again.
I teed you up for that one. No, we've been hitch-free today, and yeah, if people had known about what had gone on in the meantime, as I said before, the Independent are calling it a triumph of technology, and the Guardian are calling it positively space-aged. It was Ian Parsons somehow managing, via the magic of WeTransfer, to salvage the files from the Jamie Sutherland episode. But he did it. This is the kind of man we're dealing with here. He's not playing games. He's a genius, and he is the man who pulls this together. Thank you, Ian Parsons. It's been a Tis Done production. Until next time, nanu, nanu.
No.